Welcome to Health and Safety Conversations. Here's your host, Tom Bourne.
Hi, and welcome to Health and Safety Conversations. I'm your host, Tom Bourne, and with me today is absolutely marvellous and highly intelligent Cam Stevens. Cam, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks, Tom. I'm not sure about the intelligent part.
Oh, come on. I think there would be a world of people that would disagree with that statement. Absolutely world. You are highly respected in both the safety and technology fields, and absolutely honoured to have you on the show, to be perfectly honest. All right, Cam, for those who have been living under the rock for, I don't know, the last 10 years, I'd suggest, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you, your professional journey so far?
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Yeah, look, I've always been deeply interested in the human experience. So I studied archaeology, anthropology, human anatomy, physiology at school, at university. Landed on physiotherapy as an initial introduction into professional career. I didn't last too long there, but that was a real focus on helping people, but at the individual level. I was exposed to workers' compensation and injuries, and that got me curious about how systems are designed and created and how they impact the human experience. So I moved into health and safety and did my master's in ergonomics and human factors to learn more about systems. And early in my career, I was exposed to a pretty significant technology project that went wrong, which set me on the course of being a technology curious health and safety professional. Throughout my career, I climbed the ladder in health and safety up to head of safety type roles, and still felt that technology had an impact that I just wasn't able to explore because I didn't have enough of a technology background myself. So I moved in 2019 full-time into the technology space to learn. And then after a few years in the technology space, I figured I'd put all of that experience together and basically launch full-time my own consultancy. And that's what I do now, exploring the intersection of safety and technology and how that impacts the design, the experience, and ultimately the safety of work.
I would think it's exciting. Do you find it exciting?
Well, I've always found my career and elements of my career to be exciting, but now I get to the whole part. Everything's exciting because I can effectively choose who I work with and what I work on based on whether it excites me or not. So there's so much going on in the world of work at the moment, particularly as it relates to how technology is changing work. So yeah, everything I do at the moment is quite exciting. So yeah, I'm really energized at the type of work that I do and the people I get to work with.
Fantastic. Now, under the umbrella of technology and being introduced into safety, I'm pretty sure you see the wide spectrum of things. You see things which are fundamental breakthroughs and significantly new technologies, and you see rehashing, rebranding, small advances. Does it frustrate you that along with all the highly impressive new technologies, the breakthroughs, that the field maybe is also awash with, minor adjustments, which is then rebranded as new technologies?
Well, I think there's a lot you can draw from that question in relation to new view safety practices as well. How much of it is breakthrough versus how much of it is rebranded continuous improvement. So look, I think continuous improvement and evolution in health and safety is important, in particular, technology-led evolution, where we're incrementally ratcheting up the potential, and we're seeing that typically follow the consumer pathway. So what the consumer does out in our regular daily lives percolate into business. So things like the use of the mobile phone, for example. But those transformational changes, so you have those evolutionary changes and those transformational changes, I think are what's going to unlock the biggest value in health and safety. And at the moment, there's very little transformational change happening for various reasons. And I assume we'll get into some of that in this podcast today. It doesn't frustrate me as much as it excites me, the fact that there's so much potential and we're really only at the start. So I think if we can start to align some of those underlying reasons as to why we're not able to unlock transformational change in health and safety in particular, then if we can start working through that, I do think we'll start to see some of those bigger breakthroughs. And again, it's not just about the technologies themselves, but the trend of the technology rather than the individual gadget.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Might get me lots of hate mail, but I'm a big boy. I can handle it. You mentioned about rebranding, new view safety, etc. One thing I've always had been a bit tongue-in-cheek is I think a little bit what you think. Perhaps it's not this massive breakthrough. Perhaps it's just the continued evolution that we've had along the way. But now it's repackaged and it's shiny and new, and it's the catchphrase, new view, safety too. So is that reality?
So for me, what I really like about the new view practices and the folks that are heading that direction is mindset.
Mm-hmm. So
they all have a mindset for wanting to change and do something different, hence the brand, safety differently. Personally, I'm not enamored with a lot of the activity specifically that gets associated with doing things new. I've been reviewing a few HOP strategies recently to technology enable them. Mm-hmm. And the majority of HOP starting points are workshops. So they're typically a facilitator who's well-versed in the new view theories are providing workshops, many of them expensive workshops that are always done in person. And they travel around the world or, providing these workshops. And to me, there's a real inability to scale that impact. But what I do like about the new view practices, yes, there needs to be some fundamentals that are in place around leadership behavior and trust and just culture and response to and shifting the paradigm. It's a mindset shift that I like. So that mindset for innovation and for change is what I really like to tap into with new view safety practitioners. A lot of the professionals I work with now are adopting those practices, and the reason why we get along and work well together is because of that innovation mindset that they have. So I'm not so concerned about the work that those folks are doing, because personally I'm not seeing the change that I think that they would like to see. Mm-hmm. And it's really hard work. And I think one of the fundamental gaps there is the new view and HOP fields distinct lack of usage of technology to improve system design.
Yeah. Talk about lack of scalability and facilitator-led. Well, there might be a supply and demand thing there, if we can, do it small numbers, well, then it keeps you in a job for a long time, doesn't it? I just wish I'd thought of that and I could travel around the world doing that. But,
look, it's a bit rich for me to say, because I'm doing a similar thing, but just in digital literacy. So, I appreciate the consulting conundrum.
Yes. Look, the one thing I'd say about HOP New View that bugs me a little bit is I don't think it needs catchphrases and slogans attached to it. I really don't. I think if you think about the principles involved, they kind of make sense. So when we have catchphrases and slogans like we have with everything else in the past with safety, I sort of drop my head and I go, immediately the workers hear these catchphrases, They switch off. They go, this is rubbish. This is some sort of gimmick. And I think it's a bit above that, to be honest, or I'd like to think it's a bit above that, but maybe I'm wrong.
Well, I think if you draw the parallel analogy to AI-powered safety management platform, AI-powered prediction model, it's a little bit like that, to be honest. I think it's marketing, and that's important. So marketing is important. Sometimes having the gimmicky name allows people to latch onto something and to make sense of it in some format. I think there's a limit to how when once you've got the hook, then it needs to be about substance and quality. And I think when you scratch beneath the surface of some of the marketing, like in the AI-powered safety management system, and you go, oh, so it's literally just data analytics. We're not it's nothing fancy. So I think there's a trade-off between marketing. Marketing is very, very important in health and safety in all forms. Marketing is really important. Andrew Barrett's great at a great professional to talk to us about marketing in health and safety, and we just need to be wary about what the customer thinks about that marketing message, and back it up with something that actually makes impact.
Oh, yeah. Now, apart from being involved in technology, you've done an extensive amount of work in safety before you shifted, 2019, you said, more into technology. Where's some of the most unusual places you've either worked or managed? Because I did a little research. I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of safety professionals who just haven't gone where Cam's gone.
Yeah, I was really lucky early in my career. I went to every shire council in the whole of Western Australia, and I worked for the West Australian Water Corporation as well. So I went to almost every pump station and every wastewater treatment plant there is across the whole state. That was really interesting. I think working on an oil rig is always an interesting place to be if you've ever gone on one. I lived and worked on a drill ship for month on, month off, and when the seas were 15, 20 meters rolling waves, you had to strap yourself into bed to stop yourself from rolling out. But I think the most stark juxtaposition of work, I was living in Sydney, working for an oil company whose operations were based in Papua New Guinea in the jungles and Alaska up in the tundra. So we did helicopter portable jungle seismic operations where you get dropped into the jungle on a helicopter and sleep in the jungle in bush camps, and then otherwise we were up flying in a jet north of the Arctic Circle, and then helicoptering into the tundra, seeing the northern lights, and it really is like ice road truckers. So pretty phenomenal diverse experience. Glaciers in India, deserts in Bolivia. I've worked in quite a number of places around the world, albeit short durations, but lots of great experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Which was your favourite? If you had to settle on which was your favourite location you worked at?
Oh, that's a subjective one, isn't it? I mean, I thought Alaska was the most different for me. Well, actually, Papua New Guinea probably was different too. I can't choose. I think Alaska was, because of being in Australia and being exposed to our climate and our I think if someone from Alaska came to an Australian mine site, they would probably say the same thing. But Alaska to me was just incredible, and being able to, I think it was because 24 hours a day light or 24 hours a day dark. We'd finish work at 7 o'clock at night, and we would then go out to do some skiing or go for a hike we'd come back at 2 o'clock in the morning. We might not work until 10 or 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock the next day. It was just, it was a really, really interesting place.
Beautiful. All right. Speaking of technology, what's on the horizon? What's some of the new technologies which can actually, I don't know, the next big thing in health and safety and technology, what do you think it'll be? Don't say AI, please.
Well, there will be no ability for any next big thing in technology for health and safety if we don't work on the foundations of our data. So all technologies, generally speaking, leverage data. And health and safety data is historically and currently fundamentally biased, very poor quality, poorly collected, stored, pre-processed, and we cannot leverage the trends that are driving the future of work. So I always talk about the trends that are impacting health and safety, or the technology trends that have the potential to impact health and safety, rather than individual gadgets or technologies or brands themselves, because they will change very quickly. So some of the key mega trends that are shaping the future of work are the regular Industry 4.0 technologies that have been talked about for the best part of the decade now. So those are those suite of artificial intelligence technologies, but again, they don't work without good quality data. So advanced automation, which is artificial intelligence driven automation and robotics. So robotics and automation that are able to learn and adapt over time. We haven't seen, I think one of the things, and I'm yet to fully explore the potential, but what will unlock a lot of significant transformation will be quantum computing when combined with AI, but we're talking quite a number of years ahead of us now. But again, nothing can happen if we don't have good data, and there's too much going on at the moment where we're trying to seek technology solutions to help us predict and prevent and do these things. That can't happen until we have good data. So there is no technology that's going to improve health and safety and predict and prevent if we don't work on our data. So
when you talk about data there, or data pronunciation,
that's probably me working out.
No, tomato, potato. Anyhow, when you talk about data, what are you talking about in particular? I mean, traditionally we collect, no offense, a whole lot of crap data in safety. We've got all of those lag indicators, which, apparently are so reliable about something. No one knows what. We've also got lead indicators, which, to be honest, look to me like crystal ball or tea leaf reading, a bit like that to me. And we've got data that's actually collected from the workforce themselves, incidents, accidents, hazards, near misses, etc. Now, let's look at it. All of the historical data, the lag data, doesn't tend to indicate anything about safety, safety currently on your site. Hopeful predicting, well, good luck with that. It's a bit like predicting. And collection of stuff from workers who traditionally, no offense, that information we get from them is kind of hopeless because they don't see the importance of it. They're incentivized not to report things, and it's too hard, or they don't understand the process or the importance of it. So how do we actually collect quality data, and even to decide what data is actually important to collect?
Great questions, excellent questions, and the types of questions that I wish more of my safety professional colleagues would ask. So what is good data? What type of data do we need? What data do we need to improve health and safety? So data and information can be effectively replaced as so let's say, what information do we need? So let's talk about critical risks. So let's talk about a critical risk in business, a simple one, confined space. First question I would ask someone, anybody listening right now, do you have a confined space entry happening in your business right now? So the answer would be
yes.
Generally, well, generally, I don't know.
Oh, goodness me.
So therefore, the next question is, well, what information, what data do I need to know that? And generally, the data that we have to understand risk in real time is work order data or maintenance, work package data.
Yep.
So that work information is typically housed in an electronic database, SAP, IBM Maximo, some other kind of work order management system. That will let us know when is it planned, who's supposed to be going in, what's the task, what types of tools and equipment, etc. So then at the front line, so let's go, okay, we now know that we've got a confined space entry happening. It's happening right now. What information do we need to know about whether this job will or won't go to plan or is going to plan in real time? So we look at a lot of people will have a risk assessment conducted on a confined space entry task, and that will have, the gas testing has to be performed. So typically, and a standby operator needs to be in front of the confined space entryway. So first of all, how do we know that the gas inside the space is free? Well, there's a gas detector. So a gas detector typically gets the readings typically gets transcribed onto a piece of paper, permit, which a standby operator has, and then months later we have a look at that data. So we have a lot of latent information to determine whether or not that space was free. The work that I do would be working with an organisation to go, well, what's the critical risk? What's the critical control? In this case, gas testing, and how do we assure that that control is in place and effective in real time? So what data do we need in real time? So how could we technology enable that? Well, we get an internet connected gas sensor, and that gas sensor is providing me real-time readings, and anybody from around the world can understand that. And now what I've done is I've done two things. If right now there's a confined space that's giving me gas readings, I know A, there's a confined space entry happening, tick, and B, I know that the gas is free, tick. So then I just need to know other things about that confined space. Do I have a standby breathing apparatus? And do I have an emergency response plan that's available to be enacted if something goes wrong? And that's when we can start further technology enabling all of those different controls. Now, when a control can't be technology enabled and it has to be human driven, so it has to be a human filling out something or sensing something or looking at something, then we try and make that experience as delightful as possible. Delight being an experience so that workers want to do it and they actually like doing it. So that's how we're going to be able to predict and prevent issues. The other thing when it comes to what data do we need is all of the other information, and that provides context. What is the weather like? So I should be able to get local weather data, and if I can't, set up a local weather station. I should be able to get information about worker hours. So when was the last time the worker had a day off? Are they working day shift? Are they working night shift? All of that information is critically important for us to be able to understand the dynamic nature, the systems interaction nature of risk. So that's the type of thing we do when we want to actually get data working for us. Until we can get that kind of information, robust, quality data that's diverse, videos, photos, audio files, sensor readings, plus the manual information that we normally put together, until we can get a good, comprehensive database of information to put machines to learn from, only then will we start to be able to leverage technology for its true potential.
Yeah. I fully agree with you. But I think there's a few challenges there, though. Well, let's start with a very basic one. Internet connectivity.
Yep.
I go out to mine sites regularly in Western Australia, and even some very big Australian mine sites, let's just say that, struggle with internet connectivity. Going down to Kalgoorlie later this week, and I've been told, good luck with the internet because it comes and goes and fades. And so things like that, to get, effectiveness, I think that's the first challenge we've got to overcome. Some sort of technology with stable internet that everyone can access at any time. That'd be great. There's a couple of other things I'd suggest. Making something delightful for workers. Well, I'm hoping that can happen because let's be honest, the current paper-based reporting systems that are in place for safety, number one, workers all view them as a chore that stops them doing their real work. And number two, a lot of them don't even fill them out correctly. Or third one is that management tends to only look at those pieces of paper after something's gone wrong.
Yeah.
And that's fundamentally flawed, I believe, as well. The last thing I'll say is, or challenge that I think there could be, is you're gonna have some people who, for the sake of it, will play devil's advocate and saying all of this information going back and letting someone else make a decision remotely or be aware of what's happening remotely is effectively, I don't know, denying the workers the ability to think independently. We're basically taking that decision-making process away from them. I don't have a problem with that because, humans are flawed, humans make mistakes. We all make errors every single day. But do you think you might get some blowback about, I don't know, taking the independence away from workers? Or more importantly, you could see some supervisors on the front line saying, you're effectively neutering my ability to manage my staff.
Yeah, I mean, again, really great insights, and all of them are valid. All of them have mitigations that can be put in place depending on the context of the organization. A few of them. So, even with paper, you can make a paper system delightful. So I use a paper diary. I use electronic diaries, but I have my paper diary, and I have a particular one that I like. Because of the way that they've designed it for me, and I find it delightful to use. So even paper systems can be delightful, and paper might be an appropriate medium for certain things, particularly trying to access some contracted systems. Very briefly on connectivity, one of the reasons why connectivity doesn't exist, and there's two types of connectivity. There's operational technology networks, and there's information technology networks. Operational technology networks are for an organization to be able to operate its plant from a control room and be able to actually actuate valves remotely with the network. And then information technology will be things like email, MS Teams calls, Zoom calls, etc. And they typically operate separately because of, one, cybersecurity risks, and two, because they have different requirements around latency and bandwidth, etc. There is no reason why we shouldn't have good quality IT and OT networks on sites. The reason why we typically don't have them is because we are unable to articulate the risk requirements of not having connectivity to the technology teams. So being able to adequately document to them and demonstrate the business case as to why certain type of network connectivity is needed at a particular location. So what I would do with my clients is we do a critical risk connectivity map. So we basically document critical risks geospatially. So where are they in space? And then we do speed tests for throughput, bandwidth and ping. And we say, hey, we don't actually have any connectivity here. How are we supposed to be able to do things remotely? In relation to, there's a body of research that a lot of it is coming out of Europe because of their advanced automation, that talks about automated systems and intelligent information being provided, losing the decision-making latitude and the decision control from the frontline worker. And there's evidence to support that can be the case. What I'm advocating for is providing that augmented information to the frontline worker. So they also then have decisions that can be made by remote support teams at the same time. So ideally what you're trying to do is architect a system where the worker is augmented with information that they wouldn't normally have. Because even right now, there's a lot of information that happens in the control room on a mine site, for example, and the frontline operator has to get a radio call to say, hey, I'm seeing a pressure spike. Well, I want that frontline worker to be seeing the pressure spike too. And then you've got collective intelligence, plus you've got a machine, so a machine learning algorithm or some form of artificial intelligence that can also support the frontline worker. Now, yes, there's risks and trade-offs around information overload, reliance on these systems rather than using your brain. And that's where I think what does the maintenance technician and the operator of the future need to be? What types of skills and competencies should they have? And how should they be starting to get trained and assessed for their competence in, training environments like registered training organizations?
Mm-hmm.
We're not seeing that yet.
Mm.
So I think there's a big shift to happen. And I think there's definitely all of the things that you suggested can be realized in a poorly designed setup.
Yep.
There are mitigations as I've described, but it is a complex space.
Yeah. I like what you said about augmenting the information of the worker, because maybe we're not taking the decision-making away from a worker, we're actually giving them better information to make better decisions, or more information to make better decisions, perhaps.
I think better is what you said there was nuance. Better information, not more information.
Yeah.
More information would be a problem, certainly from a cognitive ergonomics perspective. So we don't want to have cognitive overload. We want delightful experience, good quality information at the time the worker needs it to make better, effective decision making. And when they need help, they've got their decision makers that need to support them have context. Because if they don't have context, if you ever try and do a problem solving scenario where you're in the situation looking at the problem and someone's trying to support you remotely, what is it, on the left side or the right side? Is it this or is it that? You need to give context before you can help someone remotely.
Yeah, I must say, I'm going out to sites and dealing with companies in the last 12 months or so. I'm finding actually there's a significant difference between workers' abilities to interact with technology if their company supports them and supports their learning of new technologies, as opposed to companies who basically say, if you want to do that in your time, we see no value for that. It's a huge learning difference. And the skills of the people I see, hugely different. We've got some companies where you know that their employees are up here, and you've got other companies that their abilities to deal with new technology are way down here. And the people who are way down here, I feel sorry for them, because they're effectively being consigned to doing very small roles, which are going to become, less and less available in the future. It's sad to see, because they know that they can't do, and I'm not just talking about the younger and older worker, generation gap. I'm seeing significant gaps. I think companies that actually support workers learning and the importance about technology, they're doing everyone a favour. But do you see the same sort of thing? Do you see some companies which, I won't say try and hold their workers back, but just don't support their workers learning anything new?
Yeah, I think that's not just about technology as well. It's that, that culture of lifelong learning or the investment in the worker for learning and fostering curiosity and fostering that thirst for continuing not just knowledge but skill and variety and those types of things. I mean, the world and work is changing so rapidly, so anything that you can do regardless of what it is important to get the brain flexing a little bit. I think what tends to happen is organizations will invest in digital literacy or invest in technology experimentation only once they've already decided that technology is going to be used, or it's already been purchased and it's already in place. So then what happens there is you've got pressure put on the worker to have to learn in a particular time frame. Future-focused organizations that have a strategy around the use of technology in their business will educate workers before they make the procurement decision. So right now, for example, there's a lot of organizations that haven't strategically invested in the use of dedicated artificial intelligence technologies. They're potentially going to get into it. But the ones that are really visionary are training their workers on all aspects of artificial intelligence systems now, before they make a decision. That benefits the organization multiple ways, because it means that the organization can actually have a voice in procurement decisions. So they can actually be in. So we always say, oh, involve the worker in the decision-making process. But if a worker has no literacy around the technology stack that you're about to ask them to make a decision on, it's ridiculous. So you have to invest. And this is the same with all of the health and safety practitioners and professionals that are feeling a little bit vulnerable about their own knowledge around health safety related technologies. That's a perfect signal to say it's time to learn, because inevitably you'll get to the point where you have to make a decision about a technology solution in your business. And if you don't have that foundational knowledge, you're going to get pressured into making a situation that you don't feel comfortable with. So there is no better time to upskill with base level technology literacy, and to help anybody in the organization experiment and play with these types of tools before it becomes a pressured situation. And it's exactly the same thing with regulators. We get to the point where we're pressured to do something where the regulator then has to make an opinion. One of the big things happened with COVID was remote audit assurance. So can you do a critical risk control audit using video or not? Yeah. Well, if the regulator doesn't have, you should be able to experiment with that before it gets to the point that you have to do that critical risk control audit before your facility gets shut down. Yep. You have to be able to get this stuff happening before that pressure gets put on the business. There's no better time to do it than now.
Yeah. All right. There's newer technology. If we introduce in the workplace, newer technology, does it mean less jobs or just different jobs?
It means both in a way, but depending on the technology we're talking about. But typically technologies that are changing, work demographics and work job profiles are all about task change. So usually we're talking about automation and robotics and artificial intelligence systems, typically things like generative AI, the things you're seeing at the moment where content gets created and machine learning is applied to be able to enable a machine to sense and do things beyond humans. Things that use human vision are definitely going to be replaced at wholesale change. So the classic one is rather than someone like a sonographer that might be a specialist to reviewing an ultrasound image or an MRI image, a radiological image specialist. You would have to assume that role will become predominantly redundant, because a machine can use its eyes and sense and make sense of millions and millions and millions of data points beyond a human's capability. Things like autonomous vehicles, like autonomous rail and autonomous haulage in mining, clearly replaced a large number of truck drivers because the whole task is the job. But generally speaking, we will see changes in job tasks. And in health and safety, for example, thankfully, what we will see, and we're seeing it already because I'm working with several clients at the moment on their AI health and safety programs, is we are seeing safety admin tasks being automated, which changes the health and safety professional's job profile to something else. Now, what that something else is up for us to design. Hopefully it's higher value than the safety admin tasks, which we all talk about, particularly in new view safety and HOP principles, is, we want to go out and learn about what frontline workers are doing. Well, if we can automate some of these reasonably lower value safety admin tasks, get ourselves out from behind the desk, then it can only be a good thing in my mind.
Yeah, I totally agree. All right. Future safety and health professionals, besides getting out from behind the desk, what sort of skills do you think they'll need?
So I think there's to be mildly effective, or to work in this space. So if I was going to hire a consultant to work with me and my team, what profile would I look for? If I was to put out a job advertisement, for example, what sorts of skills and competencies do I think someone that really wants to work at that cutting edge? First of all, was innovation mindset. They have to have a mindset for innovation and for thinking about doing things differently. They need a background understanding of systems thinking, absolutely. These are a blend of skills, competencies, and personality traits. So curiosity, the art of being able to ask really great questions, having good observation skills to be able to determine whether or not what you're hearing and what you're seeing, the disconnect and all the connections between those. Empathy, clearly digital literacy, and they're on trends rather than on specific gadgets. Ethics and morals. So ethics in particular as it relates to technology, but tech ethics, but more broadly, professional ethics. There needs to be an understanding of strategic forecasting. So how do you take trends and see how they, potentially look at different horizon forecasting? Service design. So what is the customer experience? So that comes into that delight conversation we talked about before. User experience and human-centered design. So how do you design for the worker or the human in mind? And then probably sort of the agile methods of project management, that iteration, being comfortable with the fact that the first thing you put out isn't necessarily going to be what it lands with. You don't have to get it perfect. Now, I think an effective health and safety leader should have little bits of that. But if you want to work deeply in this space, then you would want to spend, that would basically be a curriculum. Spend a lot of time working on those 10 or so topics, whatever I rattled off then.
I got to tell you, you do understand that's a bit of a radical shift than what's actually required now, because I could pull up a job ad right now, and I think I might see one of those characteristics pop up in the requirements.
Yeah, look, I've agitated in the recruitment space recently and spoken to pretty much all of the, at least Australian-based health and safety related dedicated recruiters, and they're all looking at me going, well, there's no commercial opportunity for us to be hiring in this space right now. Nobody's asking for this. Look, they're all skills, competencies, traits that I think have to only be applied once you have a foundational baseline knowledge. Yep. So look, the INCHPO framework, which is being revised to Rev 2.0 or X.0, whatever it's going to be, has the foundations of what you need to be a sound practitioner / professional in health and safety. But it doesn't get you to be able to compete in a rapidly changing technology-enabled world. So these are the extra skills. So I think you need a foundation first. And there are also other things like being able to influence with impact and influence without authority, and all of those other, facilitation skills and those types of things that health and safety practitioners have. Being a good communicator and all of those things, I think, are foundational. These are the things that set you apart as a not so much a visionary, but someone that is able to thrive in this very messy space that we find ourselves in at the moment.
Messy. I'll call it dynamic. How's that? All right. Pocketknife Group. How can it help businesses?
Yeah, look, so I guess we consider ourselves a bit more than just a consultancy. We sort of consider ourselves architects of better work. Our mission's to transform the way work's designed, the way work's experienced, and the way it's performed. We ultimately just want to make work better. So to do that, we work with leaders and their teams, typically health and safety professionals, to try and leverage technology in innovation to improve work design. So complex problem solving is what we do best. We like making critical risk management real, and actually leveraging data to to look at risk in real time. And realistically, we are well suited to organisations that are exploring New View, particularly ones that have started the New View journey and realised we're not really getting anywhere. Like, what's next?
Yep.
Because what we do at Pocketknife Group is we take that mindset for change and we make it practical, and we actually put in very robust processes to get things moving forward, and ideally enabling an organisation to be able to compete in this technology-led world.
Beautiful, beautiful. All right, lastly, Cam, when I last spoke to you, you were off to Turkey. So, and it seems to be that you tend to get around the globe quite frequently. So where are you off to next?
Well, my next international trip is actually going to be to Germany. So I'll be heading to Germany for Siemens. So we're developing a digital safety transformation series for their leaders. So for Siemens leaders to be able to engage with technology-led transformation in health and safety. That's with Andresa Hernandez. She's the head of health and safety there. She's an amazing leader. Before then, I've got the Global Safety Innovation Summit. So that'll probably benchmark what time we're recording the podcast. So that's next week. That'll be pretty great. I'm running a workshop with Andrew Barrett on technology, on ways to scale out New View. I've got a trip to Darwin to work on a computer vision project on trying to prevent crocodiles from entering construction sites with computer vision technologies.
Only in Australia.
And I've got a couple of jobs over east in Melbourne and Brisbane and Sydney, and then I'll be flying to London in April for the for an artificial intelligence panel at as part of the IOSH knowledge forum at the health and safety event in Birmingham. So we're flying through London and then up to Birmingham, and then seeing a few clients in London before coming home. So pretty busy next few months. But as I said before, really excited and get to work on some really cool projects. So
Fantastic. Thank you for giving up some of your time today, Cam. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you as always. And I look forward to speaking to you again soon.
Thanks a lot, Tom. I love your work.
Thanks for listening to Health and Safety Conversations with Tom Bourne. Until next time, stay safe and enjoy the rest of your week.